Right, so what are the best mid-range phones you can buy right now in mid-2019? The Xiaomi Mi 9 is one of the best value smartphones you can buy. You get a Snapdragon 855, wireless charging, USB-C, and a triple camera system at the back with an ultra-wide camera, a main 48 megapixel sensor, and then you have a 2x optical zoom camera as well. Xiaomi have put together a really capable device, and when compared to flagship phones, comes out very comparable to them, but is just so much cheaper. You get a huge 6.4 inch screen, that's an AMOLED screen, a great design, small bezels, and a tiny water drop notch at the top. Not to mention an under-screen fingerprint sensor. It's not a perfect phone. For example, the audio that comes out of the device just isn't up to scratch with flagship phones. Also, with a lot of the tests that I've done when taking video, the microphone on the Mi 9 just isn't up to scratch. It seems like a really big omission for a phone to not have a good microphone, but that is really the case. Also, the operating system does have a lot of bugs and occasionally just freezes up and doesn't work. Whilst these issues do detract a little bit from the device, all in all, this thing is incredible value for money, and you just get so much hardware for that 3,000 RMB. Next up is the Oppo Reno normal version. There is a 10x zoom version as well that uses a Snapdragon 855, and you get that periscope zoom camera. That one, starting at 4,000 RMB, is just a little bit too expensive to make the list of mid-range phones. You get a 6.4 inch AMOLED screen, and a screen without any notches or bezels is really unique. In order to get that bezel-less screen, you do have to give up on some of the other specs of the phone. For example, the camera at the back there, you just get a main sensor with an auxiliary depth sensor. You don't get a Snapdragon 855 in this one, it goes down to the Snapdragon 710. You get fast charging on this one, but no wireless charging. But definitely overall, the amount of hardware that you get doesn't stack up with the Xiaomi Mi 9. You're buying this phone because you want that completely bezel-less screen. All in all, the Oppo Reno is a really great phone with a fantastic design, but if you do have the money, maybe you want to look at the 10x version instead. That one has a Snapdragon 855 and pretty much everything you could want out of a smartphone. The Vivo X27 is much like the Oppo Reno. You get that completely bezel-less display, no notches anywhere to be found. The camera at the back has a 48 megapixel main sensor and a 13 megapixel ultra-wide camera as well. There is no zoom camera on this phone. There's an under-screen fingerprint sensor on this one, but no wireless charging, so it is very similar to the Oppo Reno. Whilst the Oppo Reno has a very big cheese wedge or shark's fin pop-up, the X27 goes for a much smaller rectangular little box that pops up there. These pop-up cameras are way better than they were last year. They are fast, going up and down. They're not going to slow you down when you want to take selfies. Both the fingerprint sensors on the Oppo Reno and on the X27 are super fast. The X27 has a Snapdragon 710, exactly the same as the Oppo Reno. Because you're getting that expensive pop-up camera and the completely bezel-less screen design, you have to pay the money but not get the very latest chip. The Vivo iQOO is set up primarily like a gaming phone. It focuses heavily on the processor and the power of the phone. Doesn't focus as much on the cameras, although you still get a pretty good camera system at the back there. You get a 6.4 inch screen with an under-screen fingerprint sensor, and importantly on this one, you get a proper, fully fledged Snapdragon 855. Vivo have kept with that double camera at the back there. You get a main sensor and an ultra-wide sensor. You also get a depth sensor on the back there to help out with some 3D imaging, but that's not going to help with actually taking any photos. There's no pop-up cameras on this one. The camera is just housed in what I think to be a very good looking notch at the top. All in all, even though this phone is primarily marketed towards people that enjoy gaming, I think overall you get a very high-powered phone. Whether you prefer the design and the operating system is up to you. If you're not 100% into gaming and you don't want a gaming phone, then maybe the Xiaomi Mi 9 is a better choice. The Meizu 16S is a phone that will probably pass a lot of people by. Meizu as a brand outside of China aren't really huge, but inside of China, they've got quite a lot of fans. The starting price on the Meizu 16S is actually a little bit higher than most of the other phones in the list. So Meizu have one of the best screen to body ratios in the industry at over 87%. You get a 6.2 inch screen on this one, and it's an AMOLED screen as well. And Meizu have not followed the trend and given us any notches. They've also not given us a pop-up camera. They have just put the camera inside a smaller top bezel. They've managed to fit the camera right in that top bezel. Some people are going to like this, and some people are going to think that this design is just a little bit old-fashioned. It seems like in 2019, most phones and most manufacturers are embracing the notch or embracing a pop-up camera. Meizu haven't followed that way, but anyway, you get a very high-powered Snapdragon 855 in the Meizu 16S. At the back, you get a double camera setup. You get the main sensor and a telephoto sensor. They haven't put an ultra-wide on this one. There is an under-screen fingerprint sensor on here, but no wireless charging. There's also no card slot. So for the price being more expensive than, for example, the Xiaomi Mi 9, you don't get as many hardware specs. For example, there's no ultra-wide camera and no wireless charging, which you do get on the Xiaomi Mi 9 for a cheaper price. The Honor V20, or the View 20 as it's known outside China, I think, had a lot of hype when it was released at the start of the year. And for good reason too. It was one of these first smartphones to have that awesome looking hole punch camera. It was a really great design and a feature-packed smartphone that you can get for cheaper than retail price now. It's actually the cheapest on the list at 2,800 RMB. You get a big 6.4 inch screen, that awesome looking hole punch camera at the top. Although it is an LCD, the max brightness is super bright and the colors are also really, really poppy and good looking. But an LCD is just never going to be as good looking as an AMOLED. This is the only phone in the lineup that doesn't make use of a Snapdragon processor. This one uses the Kirin 980 from Huawei. You get a 48 megapixel sensor on the back of the V20, and that's it. There's a time of flight sensor in there to help out with things, but there's no ultra wide camera and there's no zoom camera either. The fingerprint sensor is rear mounted. You get fast charging, but no wireless charging. For the money, you don't get as much hardware as, again, for example, the Xiaomi Mi 9. The Black Shark 2 from Xiaomi was released a little bit after the Xiaomi Mi 9, and it shares a lot of the same specs. This phone is basically a Xiaomi Mi 9 put inside the body of a gamer's phone. You get the Snapdragon 855, although you only get a dual camera at the back there, a main and a telephoto, you don't get the ultra wide. Xiaomi say they have optimized the phone for gaming, although the internals are pretty much the same as the Mi 9, and it does have stereo speakers as well, which is a good thing because, like I said, those Mi 9 speakers are not that great. The Nubia Red Magic 3 again is a phone that probably won't get too much attention outside of China. This is again a gaming focused phone, although because of that you get some of the best specs. Snapdragon 855, 6.65 inch screen. That's pretty big. That's an AMOLED screen as well, and you get a huge 5,000 milliamp hour battery. The fingerprint sensor is rear mounted, and on the back there you only get that main camera, which is 48 megapixels. That does do crazy 8K video recording though, if you've got enough memory card space to do that. It also shoots 1920 frames per second slow-mo, which is just incredible. The screen also has a 90 Hz refresh rate as well, perfect if you're into gaming. The Lenovo Z6 Pro also makes use of a Snapdragon 855. It's a 6.4 inch screen, that's AMOLED too. You get a triple camera at the back there, a 48 megapixel main sensor, an ultra wide and a telephoto, and there's also a 2 megapixel camera dedicated to help it when you're taking video. I'm not really sure how much a 2 megapixel sensor is going to help when taking video, but I guess every little helps. Fast wireless charging, of course, but no wireless charging. Maybe the gaming phones are the most interesting because they give you some really novel features, but depending on your preferences, these 9 phones have pretty much got you covered for around 400 USD.